Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this session of International Business Environment. In our previous session, we discussed regarding environmental analysis, and the last topic that we were discussing was approaches to environmental analysis. And we also discussed that there are two kinds of approach, that is outside in approach and inside out approach. When outside in approach, it is also called as macro approach, and this takes into consideration a long term perspective of the business, and it always involves identifying changes in the macro environment and making necessary changes in the organization's internal environment in respect to those changes. Now, inside out approach is also called as micro approach, and this involves analysis of changes in the internal environment of the business and also rebuilding strengths and removal of weaknesses which are present in respect to objective. Now, moving forward, the next one is techniques, or what we call as methods of business environment. And the first among that is ETOP, or environmental threats and opportunity profile. Now, ETOP stands for environmental threats and opportunity profile. Now, ETOP, or environmental threats and opportunity profile, provide a summarized view of environmental factors and also their impact on the business organization. Now, usually when it is prepared in the first under this particular analysis, the organization would list all the factors and the events that are occurring in its environment. Now, first of all, a list of all general as well as relevant environmental factors is necessary to be prepared. Once after the events and the factors are listed, the next thing is all these factors are to be assessed, or it is called as the assessing the impact of each factor. Now, in this step, what happens is, to what extent these factors is going to effect on the business is analyzed, and whether the effects are positive or negative. Will they provide any kind of opportunity, or will the company has to be ready to face the problems these environmental factors are going to present should be analyzed, and if it is opportunity, how to utilize them, and if it is threats, how to overcome them, and along with that, even the strength and weakness. By using strength, how to become more and more strong in the market, and the weaknesses, how to turn them to strength. All these things would be analyzed, and at last, under ETOP, overall summary is done, and this is the last stage, and the impact and importance of each factor is presented when in the last stage. So the summary of a ETOP analysis would look something like this. Now, in this following example, now first of all, they have listed all the factors. Now these are the four factors that they have considered. First one, economic factor. Next one, social factor. Third one, technological factor. And the last one is customers. And that is the first stage. And the next stage is they have also assessed the impact of each factor. Now, when it comes to economic factor, they have listed two of the factors. Now, first one is a rising income level, and it is going to affect positively for the organization employees. And the second economic factor is price war in the market, and this is going to affect negatively to the organization. That's why they have indicated it with a downward arrow mark. Now, regarding price war in the market, it simply means might be until now the company was the only firm in the organization. Now there might have been chances that they have started facing competition. Now when competitors come, definitely the first thing that they would do is that try to produce the same products at a cheaper rate than what the already established companies are doing. And if at all they are able to do that, then the organization will have no other way other than reducing the cost, and that is going to affect the overall profit of the company, and that is how it affects adversely to the organization. And the next one is social factors. And social factors they have listed too, that is change in taste and preference and changes in lifestyle. Now what happens when this is that every time there is a change, it asks for further innovation, research, or further new kinds of product. No matter what changes, the company will have to spend something so that it adjusts to all these changes. The next one is technological factors. Now, under technological factors, also they have listed two, that is frequent change in technology and expensive technology. Both of that will affect the organization adversely, because frequent changes in technology asks for a replace of technology every time, and if it all this it is not if it is definitely that a replacement will have its own cost that the organization will have to bear, and if at all the technology is expensive, again it is going to affect the organization adversely. And one more that they have taken is customers. And customers they have seen one positive impact and one negative impact. Now, if at all the customers have a very high demand, then the company will have no other way than to listen to their customers. So sometimes, if at all the customers have that kind of demanding power, then there are chances the organization might not reach its objective in a very good manner. And the last one is loyalty. Now, loyalty of customer represents a positive impact of the organization. It tells that no matter how many other competitors of the organization are present in the market, no matter what products they are going to come up with, those loyal customers of your organization will only consume the goods or services that are being produced by your company. Now, this is how the overall summary uh, would look like. Now, this is not exactly the same, and the list is not at all exhaustive. Now, it depends upon each organization and how they perceive their environment. Definitely, each organization will have different kinds of factors which would impact their organization, and for every organization, it depends upon its nature, size, and other factors which would make each factors either less important or more important. Now, the next one is the most important one and the widely used one, that is SWOT analysis, or the now here the SWOT, each of the letter represents four different things. Now S represents strength, W represents weakness, O represents opportunity, and T represents threats. Now these four elements are present in the business environment. Now strength and weaknesses especially speaks about the internal environment, and opportunity and threat speaks about the external environment. Now strength and weakness can be easily adjusted by or changed by the organization. Opportunity and threats need to be faced. Now, this SWOT analysis is a systematic identification or the analysis of strength, weakness, opportunity, and the threat. Now, that exists in internal or external to the organization, and also the strategy that reflects the best match between them. Now, the SWOT analysis is based on the assumption that a effective strategy will always maximize business strengths and opportunity, but at the same time it minimizes its weaknesses and threats. Now it is said that SWOT is the cornerstone of business policy formulation, and the SWOT analysis determines the course of action to ensure the survival and growth of the firm. Now, as we said, SWOT is nothing but acronym for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Now, the strength and weakness represent the internal characterization of business, whereas the opportunity and threat arises from the external environment's interplays. Now, the degree to which the internal environment of a business or of the firm matches with the external environment is termed as strategic fit. Now, the SWOT analysis enables organization to identify both internal and external influence. Now, the primary objective of SWOT analysis is to help organization to develop a full awareness of all the factors that might affect strategic planning and decision making, and subsequently the TOS matrix framework can be applied to determine various strategic alternatives for an organization. Now, SWOT can also be called as TOWS matrix, that is TOWS, and each of the letter or the acronym represent the same. There they have considered the external environment first and the internal environment next. So, we shall see the components of SWOT analysis. Now, the four components are, as we said, the first one is strength. Now, speaking about strength, the strength of the business represents to the capacity by which the organization has gained competitive advantage over its competitors. Okay, for example, maybe superior research facilities are strength for a business firm. Now, these facilities can be used for developing innovative product at cheaper cost, and the strengths are, exist in the internal environment. The next one is weakness. Now, weakness refers to the limitations or the weak areas of the internal environment, or as the description is given, it is the characteristics that place the business at a disadvantage when you compare yourself with other business organization, and even this element is internal to business organization. Now the example can be the business might be over dependent on one single supplier. Now it might have a limited product line. It might also be facing lack of funds, and all this can be regarded as limitation of a business organization. The third one is opportunities. Now these opportunities, it is explained, or it is nothing but it is the favorable conditions in the external environment of a business, and the business can use these opportunities to, carry out all the strength it has or all the potential that it has, and it usually exists in the external environment of the business organization. Now, to give an example, a company can earn extra profits by availing the environmental opportunities. That is, the government might have made it mandatory to wear helmets for two-wheeler drivers. Now, if at all the organization is a helmet providing industry, it would definitely create opportunity for that particular industry. Now they can have many opportunities through which they can increase their sales, they can increase their product line, they can differentiate the products, and so on. Now, the last component is threat. Now, speaking about this, threats are the unfavorable condition in external environment which definitely acts as a threat for the survival of the business because it creates a risk for an organization. Or in simple words, these components will cause trouble for the business. Now, to give an example, the growing competition in the industry, change in the government policy, change in the fashion, all these things can be regarded as threat for an organization. Now, this is how the SWOT matrix can be represented. The four components: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat. Speaking about strength, it is of internal origin because it is one of the attribute of organization and it is helpful to achieve the objective of an organization in a easy manner. Now, speaking about weakness, it is also the internal origin component and the attribute of the organization, but it is harmful to achieve the objective of the organization. And this particular component asks the organization to thoroughly understand the weakness and try to either minimize it, overcome it, or the best possible scenario change the weakness by using the strategies into strengths of the organization. Now, speaking of opportunities, the origin is external because it is the attribute of environment rather than being attribute of organization. But this component is always helpful for the organization to achieve the objectives as it gives more and more ways in which the business can succeed. Now, the last component is threats. Now, it is also origin in the external environment and it is harmful for achieving the objective of the business and the survival of the business. Now, threats are to be faced, and if at all the organization has prior information, it should adjust itself for the threats, come up in a way in which the effect or the disadvantage of these threats could be minimized. Now, speaking about SWOT matrix, here they have divided it into external factors, internal factors. External factors are opportunity, threats, internal are strengths and weaknesses. Now, they have taken two variables, that is SO strategy, that is strengths and opportunity. Now, SO strategies generate strategies that use strengths to take the advantage of opportunity. The next one is WO strategies. This takes advantage of opportunities by overcoming the weaknesses that organization has. To give an example, if the weakness is lack of fund, then the company will have to come up with the strategies wherein which it can bring funds to organization. Now the next one is ST strategy. Now that uses strengths to avoid the threats. And the last one is WT strategies, and it uses no to it minimizes the weakness of the organization and also avoids the threat that the organization is going to face. Now there are some of the elements which exhibits the potential strength, weakness, threats and opportunities in general which might affect the functioning of the business. Now strength can be abundant financial resources. If at all it has a very big patent portfolio. Now when it comes to production, the organization might have economies of scale. Now speaking about economies of scale, it is nothing but minimum cost, maximum output with minimum resources in such a way that no other organization can best possibly produce the same product for the price that it is going to put it in the market. Next one is high brand value. This usually comes along with the time. As and when the organization builds itself, the more and more that it stands in the market, the better it is perceived by the customer, the brand value of the business increase. Now efficient workforce, it is all that the organization can have, and it represents the entire human resource of the organization. Now one more strength can be good distribution channel. This is also important because no matter how quality goods you prepare, at last it should be distributed to the last person or the to last customer of the organization, and how well the channels are definitely going to matter for the organization. Now the next one is opportunity. Now speaking about opportunity, maybe the organization in which industry it is situated, it might be having an enormous growth and it might have huge market, and the government policies, the existing ones, might be supportive enough, and also the new technology might be helpful in gaining more and more economies of scale, and it would also help the way in which the goods would be produced, or for that matter even it might have eased the way of doing business. And demographic shifts, it especially represents the customers and how they change. If at all the change is positive, then it will always represent opportunity for the organization. Now it might have come up with the new distribution methods, and also the company might be having access to foreign markets. Now some of the general weaknesses could be, the first one is it might not have the necessary funds at its hand for the disposal of the day-to-day activities might be, or to take advantages of the opportunity that it has, and the production cost might be increasing. No matter how good the product is, the image of the company in the market might be poor. The technology that they are using might be a old one and outdated one, and when it is happens, usually outdated technology increases the cost for organization. Now the product line also be limited and even the distribution channel might not be working good. Now speaking about threats, yes, access to foreign market definitely is an opportunity. But when you enter to the market, it will have different threats, which we have already discussed, might be starting from the huge time that is necessary, the legal framework, the changes in the language, culture, how the company is being perceived. All this are a threat when organization enters in the foreign market. Now the competition might increase and that might result in no new substitute products. Now there might be frequent change in technology. The government policies might not be favorable for the organization, or for that matter the entire economy might be in a state of depression or slowdown, and also the life cycle of the product might be in a declining stage. Now speaking about this SWOT analysis, now there are some of the uses of SWOT analysis also. Now once after identification of external environment, threats and opportunities, and the organization's strengths and weaknesses, now the strategic managers or simply the managers, they consider various strategic alternatives and they would choose the most appropriate business strategy, and thereby environmental analysis, or what we call as SWOT analysis, will always play a very important role in corporate planning and also business policy formation. Now the SWOT analysis also plays significant role in some of the areas of business organization. And after name few, the first one is it helps to set objectives as it defines what the organization intends to do. Okay. Now the second usefulness is it helps in the internal appraisal of the organization. Now, this internal appraisal needs to include an assessment of the present situation as well as a portfolio of either the product they are producing or the service they are rendering, and an analysis of the product or the services life cycle. And it is also helpful in the area where the analysis of existing strategy is going on. Now this analysis of the existing strategies will determine the relevance which arises from the result of either internal or external appraisal. And the SWOT analysis also helps in coming up with developing new or revised strategy. Now, speaking of this, the revised study of strategic concern may mean the objective of the organization itself need to be changed. Now, speaking of that, it will also helpful in preparation of operational resource project plans, which helps in strategic implementation of an organization. And speaking of the uses, the SWOT analysis is also helpful in monitoring the results. Now, monitoring the results means planning against the plans, taking a remedial actions, which may mean amending objectives or, for that matters, even the strategies. Now, this is all about SWOT analysis, or in other words, which is also called as TWAS matrix. Now, moving forward, the next one is PESTLE Analysis. Now, it can be called as PESTLE Analysis, Pest Analysis, or Petals Analysis. Now, each of the letter stands for P stands for political, E stands for economical, S stands for social, T stands for technological, E stands for environmental, and L stands for legal. Okay. Now, speaking traditionally, the PESTLE analysis was well known as pest analysis, and sometimes it is also regarded as step analysis. Now, in the modern time, PESTLE came into existence by splitting the social part of PEST into environmental and economic factors into legal factors, as in the current scenarios these factors have a significant role in the strategic management. Now, speaking about PESTLE, it is a strategic arrangement technique that provides useful framework for analyzing the environmental pressure on an organization. Now, the chart that is been present in your PPT can be considered while doing a PESTLE analysis. Now, when it comes to political environment, some of the things that are to be considered might be the ideology of the party that is ruling the economy of a particular country, because it is on the basis of these ideologies the political parties come up with the new policies, rules, and regulations, and definitely it represents the governmental environment or the political environment, and it will have a huge impact on the organization. The impact can always be positive or negative. Now, it should also consider the taxation and the employment law that are being taken into consideration in each of the economy, and how the relation is between the government and business organization, and what does the government ideology towards either monopoly of the organization or towards the competitiveness of the organization. The next one is economic environment. Now, when it is economic environment, the GDP, per capita, inflation rates, interest rates, And what is the rate of consumption income, what is the rate of disposal income, and how is the currency fluctuation, what is the current exchange rate, and how much government does expenditure on all these things. These might not have a direct bearing, but definitely it is going to affect the organization. Now, that is to tell, if the disposal income is more in the individuals of a nation, definitely they would go for more luxurious goods. And if at all your organization is into producing luxurious goods, such market would help the organization. If at all the people belong to such a strata wherein they have only so much income which can bring him the necessity, definitely such kind of market will not be helpful for the organization. The next one is socio-cultural environment. Now, speaking about this, there might be shift in social and cultural values, demographic changes, changes in living standard and work profile, awareness of health and education. Next one is technological environment. This is all about how the technology changes and whether these changes will be positively affecting the organization or will it be affecting the organization in a negative way. Now, legal environment, it also represents the government rules and regulations and how the business organization will have to adjust for this. Now, natural environment speaks about all the changes regarding climate, waste management, energy conservation, the natural resources that is present in the organization, and how these would be affecting the business organization. Now, speaking about PESTLE analysis, there are some of the advantages and definitely disadvantages for this particular analysis. The advantages is it is simple and easy to understand. It involves cross functional skills and experiences, and once you understand the environment, it helps to reduce the impact and the effect of the threats, and it also helps to strategic thinking and decision making. It also identifies and also helps in exploitation of environmental opportunities. Now, the disadvantages, it is a very oversimplification of information. Now, it is always necessary to be monitored from time to time. There are chances that it is paralyzed by analysis, and it is always time consuming and costly. Now the information is there, but the user's access to quality information is usually restricted because of cost and time that is necessarily to be allocated towards it. Now, often the managers learn about political, economic, social, and technological factors only. In that case, they conduct the pest analysis. Now, PEST is also an environmental analysis, but it is a shorter version of PESTLE analysis. Now, speaking about that STEP, STEP or STEEP, STEEPLE, stapled, STEPJ, and LEPPEST, all of these are acronym for same set of factors. Some of them gauge additional factors like ethical and demographical factors. Now hereby 3 of the techniques or methods we have discussed. There is one more, that is Michael Porter's 5 force model. It is also a method of environmental analysis that we shall discuss in the coming class. Now I have taken down your attendance. You can leave the meeting for the day. Thank you, class.